Shalawama, Shalawama, Islam to all the Moors. Welcome, welcome, welcome. I'm Dr. Yasapa from Zion Law School. Today we're doing Aries. All right. This is going to begin the series of videos on Aries. Page, welcome. I'm Dr. Yasapa from Zion Page 53. Page 53, hold on. Today we're doing Aries. Hold on a second. All right. Page 53. So here we are. Hope you guys can see it. The link to the free PDF is in the description area of this video. All right. This is the Gospels and the Zodiac, the secret truth about Jesus. We just completed Aquarius, and now we'll begin with Aries. Aries, all right? Page 53. Let me check the signal. Make sure you guys can hear me. One moment. Give me one moment. Now we'll begin with Aries. All right, we're good. So y'all, share the link on your Facebook and your Facebook groups. Like it. If you've been here, if you stay more than 5 minutes, like the video, okay? Like the video, that's only right. YouTube shadow bans, all right? So like the video, share and subscribe, and make sure y'all support with your finances our project to write the book of the law in ancient Ibaryath and English. So why do you need it in ancient Ibaryath? Because you can learn your own language, okay? We can learn our own language. We can speak a language that they, our oppressors, our enemies, as the scripture says, do not understand. And they won't want to take the time to try to learn it, all right? That's the first. And then secondly, you'll understand what the documents actually say. Right now, you don't have a clue, trust me. Go to Bible Hub, read your favorite scriptures. Go to Bible Hub and read how they're translated differently by multiple Bible translation aids. And there is some symmetry, some unity on verses where they hide information or totally lie. Okay, and you'll see for yourself that there's a conspiracy. You, my friend, you ain't supposed to know. All right, you ain't supposed to know. But anyway, let's get into it. And I want to show you by writing the book of the law in Ibaryath, in English, I'm going to show you, I'm going to expose those lies, the Jeremiah 8, verse 8 occurrences. So let's get started, page 53. All right, let's get started. And we're going to do our thing, okay? So here we go. First thing to note, I'm on the wrong page, hold on. Not page 53, yes, page 53. Aries. Aries is coming from Mark chapter 1 to Mark chapter 3, verse 35. Y'all see it here. All right. So I'm not making this stuff up. I'm going to read through this and give commentary as I go. Take a look at the image. I wish it was color, but it's not. Take a look at the image that they have here to begin the chapter. This is Aries. Aries, the ram, the goat. All right. So let's begin. One that April, with his shores soaked, the drought of March have pierced to the road. And bathed every vein in switch liquor of which virtue engendered is the flower. When Zephyrus eke with his sweet breath inspired hath in every hope and heath the tender crops, and the young sun hath in the ram is half cores yorn. Sounds like old English, y'all. And small fowls making melody that sleeping at the night with open ye. So freaketh him nature in her courageous, than longing folk to gloom on pilgrimages. What I can make out of this, scholars, that very first sentence, what that April, okay, so the rains of April showers, right? March, the drought of March has proceed to the road. So April brings, well, spring. The idea being conveyed here is that springtime brings rain. The rain soaks into the earth and vegetation begins to grow, right? Those animals that hibernate begin to wake up. The animals have something to eat so they can begin to what? Create their new generations, right? Okay. And then also the flowers, they begin to grow and create new generations. Okay. So anyway, let's continue. Because of the phenomena of equinoctial precession, which was explained in chapter 2, there are really two ways of dividing the zodiac. One division of the zodiac is based on the actual star groups. So these are the mansions, right? These are the mansions or the constellations that make up each zodiac sign, as we see them in the sky, and is used today in India and by a number of Western astrologers. This is called the sidereal zodiac, all right? So the zodiac based upon some imaginary image of all of the constellations. This is called the sidereal zodiac, okay? Star groups, constellations, okay? Star groups or constellations, okay? So each star has a name that makes up the constellation. And then that star group or constellation is called a zodiac sign. The other division, called the tropical zodiac or moving zodiac, uses the same names as the constellation groups. Okay, so the names don't change. The names in both groups are the same, but begins, so the tropical zodiac or the moving zodiac begins at the point of the spring equinox. So the point of the spring equinox, remember, this is the equinoctial point. This is Aries, usually between March 19th, 2021, maybe 22 of each year, okay? Spring equinox, Aries. The constellation, the tropical zodiac begins at the point of the spring equinox, that's Aries, wherever this might be in relation to the fixed stars. So that location may move, well, not may, but it does move to the precession of the equinoxes. See, precession, moving of the equinoxes. Okay, but I'll explain that later. Let's continue. So the tropical zodiac begins at the point of the spring equinox. So right now in this zodiacal age, it's Aries. That point is called Aries, wherever this point might be in relation to the fixed stars. Now remember, to the fixed stars, This zodiac derives its symbolism from the year itself, from the drama of the conflict between light and darkness. Okay, so y'all know that this conflict between light and darkness, we saw that in the movie series Star Wars. Luke Skywalker, Luke, Lucius, Lucifer, light. Darth Vader. Darth Vader wears a helmet. He's the prince of what? Prince of darkness. He's wearing the Nazi helmet. You guys see it? He's speaking through a pyramid, right? His helmet, the Nazi helmet. And then there's a pyramid, and he talks through the pyramid. And what's at the top of the pyramid? At the top of the pyramid, there's what? The chief cornerstone. The chief cornerstone is, of course, JC, the Christ figure. The chief cornerstone is JC, the Christ figure. All right? So, light and darkness. The summer solstice, the sun reaches its highest point in the northern sky during its annual orbit, okay? Draw a line straight down. That's when the sun is at its lowest point in its southern orbit. That's the winter solstice. Okay, so summer solstice, winter solstice. Draw a straight line down. So this is light and darkness. So when the sun is at its lowest point in its orbit, that's December 21st, 22nd, right? This is when you have the maximum number of nighttime hours, the minimum number of daylight hours. In other words, the night has fully conquered the day. The dark has fully conquered the light. Okay, the sun has been killed. You guys remember? Why? Because there's no movement of the sun on the sundial. It takes 3 days before it to move. Okay, it moves on December 24th at midnight. That's the beginning of December 25th. So somewhere around June 22nd or so, the sun is at its zenith. This is the light. This is Christ consciousness. So this is the Christ. The summer solstice is Christ. Winter solstice is the devil. They're at the opposite ends of the opposing line. So the winter solstice is the devil. The devil is on the opposite end of the line. So therefore the devil, as we always remind you, the devil is the opposer, Satan, Hashatan. Why? Because it's on the opposite end of the same line. Y'all got it? That's all that is. Opposite end of the same line. So we see in the movie Star Wars, Luke, Lucius, right? And Lucifer, light. In the Bible, we see Christ, right? The Christ who is the what? The light of the world. Christ is the light of the world. And Satan is the prince of darkness. Okay? There you have it. Let's continue. This zodiac derives its symbolism from the year itself. The drama of the conflict between the light and darkness, Star Wars. The Gospels, the New Testament, Jesus battling Satan. In Egyptology, Horus battling Set. Set as in sunset. Horus as in hours that the sun, when it begins to rise over the horizon, the 12 hours that it walks across the sky until darkness. So from the vernal or spring equinox to sunset, is 12 hours. Okay, that's at the equinox, at the equinox. So Horus is walking across the sky. 1 horse, 2 horse, 3 horse, 4, 5, 6 horse, 7, 8, 9 horse, 10 horse, 11 horse, 12 horse. In English, they switched it up. Instead of Horus, the deity, they made it hours, so you wouldn't know. Okay, that's talking about Horus. Do y'all see it? The drama between light and darkness, between good and evil. In summer, everything is great. We party, we have a great time. But in winter, what happens? It's dark early, it's cold, it's freezing. Nothing good about winter. All right, I think that's clear. So let's continue. Like and share the video. If y'all still here already, like and share the video, okay? Like and share, let some people know that we are here. Okay, if you haven't subscribed, subscribe right now. Okay, let's continue. Since the spring equinox now takes place against the background of the constellation Pisces. So listen to what the author just wrote. Since the spring equinox, every March 19, 20, 21, 22, somewhere around there, since the spring equinox now takes place against the background of the constellation Pisces. So that's all of the constellations that make up the zodiac sign Pisces, which is visualized as a fish. They represent Pisces as a fish. So every morning on the equinox, the spring equinox, you go outside about 5:30 in the morning, whatever time in your area when the sun is rising, look over to the east and you'll be able to see Pisces on the horizon, or the Horus, Pisces on the Horus, the horizon, okay? The sun will be rising with the backdrop. What are you going to see in the night sky at the horizon? You're going to see the constellation of stars called Pisces as the sun is rising every morning, okay? 2,150 years approximately of each zodiacal age. So here's the sun rising, and here's Pisces, 5:30, 5:45 in the morning. All right, the sun is rising with Pisces behind it. I hope it is clear. If you have a question, put it in the chat. Since the spring equinox now takes place against the backdrop of the constellation Pisces, the two zodiacs have drifted apart, and to the confusion of everyone, a planet said to be in the sign Aries is in reality in the constellation Pisces. Did y'all get that? Let's go through it again. Since the spring equinox takes place against the background of the constellation Pisces, the two zodiacs, Aries and Pisces, the two zodiacs have drifted apart, and to the confusion of everyone, in other words, this topic confuses people, a planet said to be in the sign Aries is in reality in the constellation Pisces. Okay, y'all? All right. And why is that? The author tells us the two zodiacs have drifted apart. All right, that's why. The constellations have drifted apart. A planet is said to be in Aries, but it is in fact in Pisces. Why? Because they drifted apart. It is important for us to note, however, that at the time Mark's gospel was written, the two zodiacs, that's Aries and Pisces, were virtually coincident. We see the colon sign, so he's going to tell us what he means. The equinox was occurring right on the cuspal division between Aries and Pisces. So what is he telling us? When the book of Mark was written, there was the transition of the zodiacal age taking place. So every day, every year, the zodiac sign for the month, or rather Aries, right? And whatever zodiac sign is behind it, in this case, Pisces, they grow apart. So what's happening? After 2,150 years or so, a new constellation is going to appear on the horizon in the east at 5:30 or 5:45, whatever the sun time, whatever time the sun rises. You guys get it? So it's moving. Things are moving. That's what the author is saying. It is important for us to note, however, that at the time Mark's gospel was written, the two zodiacs were virtually coincidence. That means that they were close together. They were not moving far, they were not far apart. But over that span of 150 years, they moved apart. Clear? All right. The equinox was occurring right on the cuspal division between Aries and Pisces. There we are at that division. There was the initial transition was taking place. Consequently, Mark was able to use imagery derived from the year cycle or signs and from the actual star groups in composing his gospel. Let me read it again. As a result of that, or because of that, okay, the two signs, Aries and Pisces, were close together. They had not moved far apart. They were close together. Because they were close together, Mark was able to use imagery derived from the year cycle, derived from the signs, and from the actual star groups in composing his gospel. Now, y'all remember when we did Aquarius, the author presented information that showed that Mark, or whoever wrote Mark, had a knowledge of astrological theory, because basically what Mark did was paraphrase the astrological theory. He just paraphrased it. Y'all go back and watch, I think it was video 7 or 8, maybe 9, one of those videos about Aquarius, where he actually shows it, that he just paraphrased it. All right, so all of that end time prophecy stuff comes straight out of astrology. All right, if you don't believe me, go back, read it, make your own decision. Okay, make your own decision. Next paragraph. The constellational zodiac has no natural beginning or end. Okay, so now the tropical zodiac or the moving zodiac has a beginning. It's the spring equinox or the vernal equinox. All right, and whatever sign is in that location, that'll be the sign for the beginning of spring for the next 2,150 years. You got it? And it'll change. This is the tropical or moving zodiac. In contrast to the constellational zodiac, which has no natural beginning or ending. Got it, y'all? See the difference? All right. However, according to Cyril Fagan, page 30, it was customary in the ancient world to begin the cycle with Virgo. Let me repeat that. According to Cyril Fagan on page 80, the ancients had the custom of beginning the constellational zodiac in Virgo. Now, this is very important, very important. Now, that's a custom, right? That's a custom. It's not mandatory. Remember, the constellational zodiac has no natural beginning or ending. It was the custom in the ancient world to begin the cycle with Virgo. So Virgo is the first sign of the zodiac in the constitution, in the constellational zodiac, okay? In the tropical zodiac, the first sign would be what? The natural year begins in the spring, so it's going to be during the Pisces. I'm sorry, let me repeat that. It is Aries now. So Aries is the first zodiac, okay? Because the equinoctial point occurs in March, the spring, okay? Let's continue. I got to get my energy. I should have eaten something or got myself something to drink. Okay, let's continue. It was customary in the ancient world to begin the cycle with Virgo, and Seiss considers Virgo to be the natural starting point, presumably because the myths that surround it concern birth. Y'all got that? So birth would be the beginning of life, according to this scholar. But let's take a look at that, all right? Let me read it again. It was customary in the ancient world to begin the cycle with Virgo, Virgo the Virgin, who gives birth to JC the Christ figure. To begin the cycle with Virgo. And Seiss is a scholar. Seiss considers Virgo to be the natural starting point, presumably because the myths that surround Virgo concerning birth. All right, so the myths that surround Virgo, or the myths about Virgo, they all have to do with birth. And what is birth? Birth is a new life, right? So let's continue to see what else he says about this. The Gospels of Matthew and Luke are prefixed by such mythic birth stories. So here we are. Mark's Gospel is not. It opens with a mature JC, the Christ figure, ready to embark on his public ministry. And no mention whatsoever is made of JC's physical birth or of his childhood. In trying to capture this theme of, quote, new beginning, unquote, Mark employs the symbolism of Aries. So why does Mark use the symbolism of Aries? Because he wants to capture a theme, or he wants to present a topic, and the theme is new beginning. Clear? He wants to talk about some stuff that has to do with a new beginning. Therefore, he uses the symbolism of Aries. Okay, well, let's find out more. Okay, so Mark employs the symbolism of Aries, the sign of the springtime, when the cycle of growth on earth begins anew. All right, so Mark uses Aries because springtime, everything's growing, right? The plants are coming back. The animals have come out of their hibernation. They're making new generations. They're having sex and reproducing. The plants are reproducing, all right? So it's a time of birth and regeneration. Okay, so let's continue. The constellations began with Virgo, but the signs began with Aries. Y'all got that? The constellations began with Virgo, but the signs began with Aries. All right. Okay, so let's see if we can work our way through this. Virgo is the virgin who gives birth to JC, the Christ figure. This is the beginning of the constellations. There are 12. Now the zodiac signs begin with Aries, because Aries is the time when plants and animals begin to have babies, reproduce themselves, and the earth renews itself or replenishes its forms of life. Y'all got that? Ptolemy was in Egypt, a famous Egyptian astrologer, or so they say, who wrote only 100 years or so after Mark, and whose work reflects the astrological traditions of antiquity. So Ptolemy, this Egyptian astrologer, amongst other things, he wrote his works on astrology about 100 years after Mark died. Okay? And Ptolemy's works reflect the astrological traditions of those ancient times. Okay, so Ptolemy's works tell us that although there is no natural beginning of the zodiac, since it is a circle, I hope y'all see that. For example, here's a circle right here. It's very interesting that I have this, right? Here's a circle right here. Where does this circle begin? Where does the circle begin? The circle has no beginning, right? You're gonna have to choose an artificial or arbitrary beginning. Clear? Circle has no beginning. Therefore, the zodiac, the natural zodiac, has no beginning. Very interesting that I have this here at the moment. I didn't plan on doing that. Okay, so let's continue. All right, let me get my place again. All right, so Ptolemy, who wrote only 100 years or so after Mark, and whose astrological works reflect the astrological tradition of antiquity, tells us that, quote, although there is no natural beginning of the zodiac, since it is a circle, they assume that the sign which begins with the vernal equinox, the sign that begins with the vernal equinox is Aries, is the starting point of them all. This is Ptolemy, page 59 through 61. All right. Okay, so it has to do with birth and regeneration. All right. Next paragraph. It is possible that Mark knew of the virginal concept. Let me repeat that. It is possible that Mark knew of the virginal conception stories. Mark probably knew about the virginal conception stories, since these would be part of the esoteric tradition inherited by all evangelists. Such stories are a commonplace of mythology, and when interpreted esoterically, related to the birth of the spiritual life, which, as the Gospel of John informs us, is not a physical birth, but a rebirth, a renewal, anew, a regeneration, okay? It is a rebirth whose origin is not in the flesh, but in capital G-O-D. This is coming from John chapter 3. So in other words, JC, the Christ figure, is the tetragrammaton, or the Father and the Son and the Holy Ghost as one Trinity. If that's what you believe, if you don't believe in the Trinity, JC came from the spirit realm and was reborn in the flesh as a man. In either case, It's a rebirth. All right, it is a rebirth. Just like Aries, plant life, animal life, replenish themselves. They're not created every spring, no. They reproduce, renew. The earth renews all life forms, okay, every spring. Clear? Let's continue. Such stories are a commonplace mythology and when interpreted esoterically relate to the birth of the spiritual life, which, as the Gospel of John informs us, is not a physical birth, but a rebirth whose origin is not in the flesh, but in the deity, quoting John chapter 3. We might speculate that Mark chose not to open his gospel with such stories in spite of their appropriateness to his theme. In spite of their appropriateness to his theme, right? His theme is what? A new beginning. Mark's theme is a new beginning, because by placing them at the beginning of his narrative, at the beginning of his story, he would introduce Virgoian, that's the Virgin constellation, Virgoan. He would introduce Virgo themes out of sequence. He would introduce Virgo or Virgoian themes out of order. Mark is concerned with spiritual rebirth, and he uses the rebirth of the year in the springtime as his primary symbol. Y'all got that? The rebirth of the year in springtime. That's Aries. Mark uses Aries as his primary symbol. Why? Because he did not want to use the Virgo theme, because that would take everything, what? Out of order, out of sequence. Y'all got it? So he decided that he would start with Aries, the signs. Aries, the signs. He started with the sign Aries, and he said, no, I'm not going to start with the constellation Virgo. Remember, the constellations begin with Virgo. The signs begin with Aries. So this is what the author is talking about. Next page, 55. Since the Jews do not accord the status of rabbi to anyone who was under 30 years old, the Jesus we encounter in these early chapters of Mark is, we assume, in his late 20s. And in fact, Luke's gospel tells us that Jesus was born, let me repeat that. Luke's gospel tells us that Jesus was about, quote, 30 years old when he began his ministry. That's Luke chapter 3, verse 23. But what can we tell you? What can I tell you about 30 years old? Astrologically, 30 years old means this. Let me rephrase that. Jesus being 30 years old at the beginning of his ministry is a remix. All right, y'all, it is a remix from something concrete, an astrological concrete event. And here it is. Every constellation, the sun will enter into a zodiac sign. It will pass through the zodiac sign, and it will exit that zodiac sign. Now remember, the zodiac signs are arranged in a circle. They're arranged in a circle, all right? They're arranged in a circle. So when the sun enters every zodiac sign, it's going to enter that sign at a 30-degree angle. Let me repeat it. The sun enters every zodiac sign at a 30-degree angle. and it exits that zodiac sign at a 33-degree angle. It exits that zodiac sign at a 33-degree angle. Hence, the Christ begins his ministry at 30 years old, and his ministry ends, the Christ begins his ministry at 30 years old, and his ministry ends at 33 years old. Let me say it again. The sun enters each zodiac sign, each mansion. My father, in my father's abode, there are many mansions. In space, there are many zodiac signs. There are 12. The sun enters each zodiac sign at a 30-degree angle. Christ begins his ministry at 30 years old. The sun exits each zodiac sign at a 33-degree angle. Christ's ministry ends at 33 years old. Clear? All right, so we're talking about angles. So Christ beginning his ministry at 30, dying at 33 years old. This is a remix. It is a remix of what? Of the concrete natural phenomena of the sun entering each zodiac at 30 degrees and exiting at 33 degrees. This is the concrete natural phenomena. The Gospels, in my opinion, is a fairy tale. It is abstract. Okay, so the concrete natural phenomena has been remixed and flipped into what we call now the Gospels. All right, the Gospels. Remix of natural phenomena. What's the point? We need to return to the state of mind of our ancient foremothers and forefathers. That means we need to begin to what? Return to nature and correct our speech so that we are talking the speak or jurisdiction of natural law. The power of nature. Y'all might say God, right? Nature's God, nature's law, and nature's God. I'm going to tell you the laws of nature, land, air, and water, the jurisdiction, the law language of the land, the air, and the water. Okay? And the power of nature to create and to regenerate and to renew. And both are you, Moors, regardless of what family of Moors you stem from. Ham, Shem, Canaan. Y'all follow me? You're still Moors. You are still, as you read in your Bible, gods. You are still the gods and the law and the rightful heir to all value, all land, resources, and energy on this planet. All right? And there never was a time when man was not. Take that and ponder over it in the context of consciousness. Let's continue. Page 55, the top paragraph. This is the age when youth is over and a new seriousness enters our life. Now, we just went over this, so take what this guy is saying with a grain of salt, okay? The age when a new seriousness enters into our life would depend on what? Where you live, the environmental conditions where you live. Firstly, right? Lifespan, culture, etc. Clear? These would determine how serious you are about life. Okay, if you find yourself on your own at 16, well, guess what? You're going to take life a whole lot more seriously than a 16-year-old who has parents to take care of them. Okay, y'all? But anyway, that's neither here nor there, but read suspiciously and notice all the details and think. Don't just accept what someone says. It approximates, or 30 years old, approximates to Dante's middle of life's journey. And it is marked astrologically by, quote, Saturn, or the return, or Saturn return. Let me read that again. It approximates. I'm sorry, y'all. The text is so smudgy on some areas of my book. It approximates to Dante's, quote, middle of life's journey. Life is halfway over at 30. That's what he's saying. And it is marked astrologically by the, quote, Saturn return. So 30 years old astrologically is marked by Saturn return. When at around 29, the planet Saturn has made a complete circuit of the zodiac and has returned to its place it occupied when we were born. Did y'all get that? Let me read it again. 30 years old, the life of Jesus, 30 years old. The author is saying, same thing that they said in the Christian religion that I was in. Men become, or people become fully mature. You become a fully mature man at 30 years of age. All right? This is what he's saying. Astrologically, this coincides with Saturn, when Saturn returns to its original place. Let me read it for you. The planet Saturn, and it is marked astrologically by Saturn's return. When at 29, the planet Saturn, that's when you're 29 years old, or 29 years after birth. The planet Saturn has made a complete circuit around the zodiac. Y'all got that? Saturn has made a complete circle around the zodiac. That's the whole zodiac, y'all, not a zodiac sign. Saturn has made a complete circle around the whole zodiac. That takes 29 years. All right? So from the time you came out of your mom's womb, 29 years later, Saturn had already went around the zodiac one time. That's what he's saying. 30 years old signifies a change of outlook. Now, I don't agree with that because that's going to be specific to your environment, personal circumstances, lifespan, and culture. It signifies a change of outlook, a reappraisal of priorities. We become more conscious of our mortality. Now, I don't agree with that at all. You don't become more, in my experience, you don't become more conscious of your mortality until you get in your 40s or 50s, late 40s or 50s, and seems better disposed than before to search for spiritual meaning to our life. Now, I disagree with that also, because this is also dependent upon indoctrination, education and indoctrination, and seem better disposed. So at 30 years old, you're better at thinking about the spiritual meaning of life, whatever that spiritual meaning means. It's so ambiguous. I don't even like to hear the word spiritual. All right. Spiritual to me is breath, the art of breathing, life. They're talking about your relationship with the external deity and whether you're going to go to heaven or hell or live forever on earth. They're talking religion here, y'all. So this is an indoctrination. You can go to certain parts of the world, they don't think like this, especially where I'm at in Vietnam. It's not like this. None of what this author is saying applies here. It's cultural. All right, let's continue. Traditionally, it is the age at which the Buddha began his search for enlightenment. All right, y'all, we've been going for a while. We're going to stop at page 55 and pick up at Aries and Mars. If y'all get a chance, read this subheading. Hopefully I'll be back in the next 12 hours or so, or the next 24 hours, depending on my schedule and how I'm feeling, y'all. Let me see. Put something in the chat. Say something to me. Put something in the chat. Y'all share the video, like and share the video. If you haven't subscribed, subscribe. Now, remember, go to enforcetheconstitution.org. Check up on our brother, Consul General Lamont Maurice L. Sign up to their newsletter. If you can do whatever they're asking people to do, please do so. Okay, let's stand up, help each other. It's for our nation. If you feel it in your heart and if you're tired of having to use Jewish people's books, Christian people's books, if you're tired of having to rely on other people who don't like you, who hate you, who kill you, who harass you, who hit you with bills of attainder, who cheat you, who do anything dirty and rotten to you behind your back or to your little seed, can be 1, 2 years old. Y'all know it's true. You know who we're dealing with the Han Humans, the Paleolithic people, or the Paleolithics, the caveman. If you're tired of being under their oppression and authority, support my project, Zion Law School's project, to write the book of the law in Ibaryath and in English so that you can see what these documents really, really say. They have been used as psychological weapons. Jeremiah chapter 8:8. Okay, lies and deception have been put in there to hold you down mentally and physically. And almost everyone listening to this video are under a spell, especially if you follow the Gospels, the New Testament, as hard as that might sound. You're under the God spell. All right? And every time your rabbi, Moshe, pastor, preacher, gives you a sermon, prays for you, he's doing incantations. And those incantations, now y'all know we went through this in the book, The Devil's Pulpit. The Reverend Robert Taylor, the author of that book, spilled the beans. Okay, these so-called spiritual leaders are doing rituals, incantations, chants, prayers, music, for the sole purpose of keeping you under their spell and emptying your pockets so that they can live off of you and have complete authority over you that you willingly give them. You can go back and read this in the Devil's Pulpit, where he talks about the black or the dark priesthood, the prince of darkness. The Gospels, remember we talked about, it's a story about what? The Prince of Peace, JC, right? And the Prince of Darkness. All right, JC is what? He's the risen Savior. The risen Savior, the Son risen, the risen Savior. Light versus dark, okay? Evil versus good. That's it, y'all. Support the project with your Federal Reserve notes, with your finance. If it's 5 or 10 or even 100 or 10,000 or 1,000,000 Federal Reserve notes. Support it and let's get it done. I have the qualifications to do it. Look in the description area of the video. You'll see the books that I've written on ancient Ibaryath, which some of y'all call Paleo Hebrew. All right, check it out. I've been doing this for many years. Islam to the Moors, and Shalawama to all of the families, all Genesis chapter 2 Moors, regardless of what family you come from. Shalawama.